Welcome to part 1 of this orientation video for your online World History 2 summer school class. In this video, we'll attempt to answer some of the more commonly asked questions by students new to the course. The first question, and probably the most commonly asked question by students before they begin, is how much time does the class require? And it's an important one to understand because I think a lot of students beginning the course might not be fully aware of what they're about to embark on over the next 4 weeks. Students in the course should expect to spend about 7.5 hours each day working in the class. And I know for some students, they might be falling off their chairs hearing that. But when we think about what you're trying to accomplish in this course, you're attempting to cover the same amount of material that's covered during the actual school year over 40 weeks in just 4 weeks of the summer. If we look at the math there, if we think of a typical school year of 40 weeks, if you're in a school with block scheduling, maybe your class meets on 1 week 2 times a week, in which case you're there for 3 hours. Other weeks you're there 3 times a week in the class, so that would be about 4.5 hours. We average that out to about 3.75 hours a week. We multiply that by 40 weeks of the school year for 150 hours. In order to cover that same amount of material in just 4 weeks, we're looking at about 37.5 hours per week. That's where we get this number of about 7.5 hours a week. You will not, more than likely, you won't be spending 7.5 hours every single day, but the expectation for a student going into the class is that most days you may be spending up to that amount of time. It's an important thing to consider. It's an important thing to make sure families are aware of, because if this is more than perhaps a student or a family bargained for signing up for the course, it would be important to reconsider the plans to take the course sooner rather than later. Keep in mind, each day in a summer school course is equal to 2 full weeks during the school year. Another commonly asked question is, when is class? Class in the online setting is a little different than the setting in your school. Class is much more independent. The student is working much more on their own, with the teacher kind of a distant guide available to answer questions and provide help along the way. You can work on those 7.5 hours each day, the assignments that you're working on, pretty much whenever you choose during the day. A very important tip there, and one that successful students in the course more often than not follow, is to make a daily schedule and keep to it. One of the first things you should do in starting this class is have a calendar or some organizer and figure out each day what times are you going to work on this class. Students who approach each day not really knowing when they're going to work, they tend to be the ones who fall behind because that lack of structure. We might not like it during the school year, but those bells kind of keep us moving and keep us going where we need to go. You don't really have that sitting at home on your computer. So making a schedule of when you are going to do that. Along with that, I would strongly advise students do not spend 7.5 hours all at one time. Break it up into, if possible, morning, afternoon, and evening, or however your schedule is. Break it up into smaller chunks. Okay, don't do it all 7.5 hours all at once. Set aside a little bit of time in the morning, a little bit of time in the afternoon, if needed, a little bit of time in the evening. Communicate with your families. Okay, meal times, family obligations, those things are important as well and need to fit into the schedule that you create. The only fixed time in the course is the 1-hour Illuminate class session that will occur each day. Your teacher for the course will communicate that time. Okay, but that'll be the only fixed time. So 1 hour of that 7.5 will be a teacher-directed online class session. Again, you just need to be at your computer, logged into the Elluminate link that the teacher provides. That time will be determined by the teacher each summer. Okay, remember, for those Elluminate sessions, an expectation of the online campus is that each student have a microphone, okay, a headset and microphone that they can hear and speak in the class sections. The expectation is that each student will participate and speak during each of those class sessions. So a microphone is a vital piece of equipment for the course. Okay, students new to the course often ask, where is the class? And as we mentioned, unlike your school where you have to be in a particular classroom, perhaps even in a particular seat by a particular time, this class in the virtual online world, it's housed completely within the FCPS 24/7, or what most students refer to as Blackboard. Those links can be accessed from the Fairfax County Public School website or your own home school website. It would probably be a good idea to bookmark that page. It'll make the getting to it, since you will be going to that page every single day of the course, it would make getting it a little bit easier. All of the assignments, for those who are not familiar with Blackboard, can be accessed, completed, and submitted through Blackboard. Okay, you do not need a printer. You do not need to be able to print off or send anything to the teacher. Everything will be printed, or everything will be completed and submitted to the teacher electronically through Blackboard. We understand that life happens during the summer. Even though you have signed up for a course that requires close to 7.5 hours each day, life does occur. Relatives come to visit. You might need family obligations. Things happen to computers. Thunder and lightning happen. Power goes out. We understand that, and so there is some flexibility in the course. Students have 2 days to complete the daily assignments. So, for example, work that's assigned by your teacher on Monday, okay, the student has all day Monday, and they have Tuesday as well to complete those assignments from Monday. Okay, at that time, those assignments become unavailable, but that hopefully provides students a little bit of flexibility there if things crop up unexpectedly during the day. For some students, they take that as an invitation to procrastinate, and so an important tip is to don't get snowballed in your assignments. Work piles up very quickly. Again, you're covering 2 weeks of material each day, so just skipping a day just for no good reason does carry a bit of a price the next day in terms of catching up. So as best you can, try to avoid needing that second day. Try and complete the assignments as they're given each day. Start each new day then fresh with the material covered or assigned on that particular day. Don't get in a habit of saying, well, I have 2 days to complete this, because then the next day arrives and now you have that stuff to do as well. Okay, so keep up with the calendar, keep up with the course as best you can. On that note, what happens if a student is not keeping up in the course? Students who go a full day without submitting any work, your teacher will be checking in to make sure everything is okay. You may be receiving an email or a phone call from the teacher just to make sure that everything's okay and that you understand you've just missed about the same as 10 regular school days. If a student goes 2 days without submitting any work, okay, so we're talking a long time during the school year. 2 full days without submitting any work, a student will be removed from the class. Okay, so it is important that students are keeping up daily, logging in, doing assignments, participating in the Elluminate session. If they just kind of disappear and don't do any work for 2 days, they will be dropped from the course. As we said, the assignments that students do are all done through Blackboard, but there are 3 face-to-face meetings when students do need to leave their homes and go to additional locations in order to take exams. This is both the logistical of all students have to do these, so we have to get people where these things can be proctored and assigned. It's also a bit of an honesty check as well. The idea that you're there at home doing these assignments, and we're assuming that you're doing your work and that you're learning the material that you need to be learning. But the midterm exam halfway through the course, the final exam after all the coursework has been assigned, and then for students who have not already taken the course and passed an SOL exam in World History 2. That largely is just students who would be in the situation of they took the course during the school year and maybe didn't pass it, but they passed the SOL exam. Most students have these 3 face-to-face exams, the midterm, the final, and the SOL. Your summer school teacher will provide those dates, times, and locations. And please, for the sake of your transportation, make sure that your ride knows the date, time, and location of these exams. These are mandatory. They're important exams for students to prepare for, and they are expectations of the course. So let your transportation know sooner rather than later, as soon as you find out from your teacher what days, times, and locations those will be. Okay, and then probably the most important advice, what happens if you need help during the course in your classroom in school? You just raise your hand and the teacher comes over. A little bit different in the online setting. Please don't hesitate to contact your teacher with any questions. Their contact information is provided in the Blackboard course shell. Email is usually the most reliable and quickest way to get a hold of your teacher, but each teacher will provide that information. And don't be shy about questions. Please don't sit there at your house, at your computer with a question, afraid or shy or scared to ask it. Chances are, if you have a question, it's a question the teacher has heard from other students. It's just important that you get your questions answered and answered as quickly as possible. So make sure you avail of your teacher for any information they can provide, any clarity that they can provide on assignments, questions, big or small. Make sure you ask your teachers as quickly as possible. And that concludes this first portion of our online orientation video.